Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to evening devotion. A funny story. We had a major, major. I don't even know what to call it. It was like a miniature hurricane, and I went to go help my mom. She had some mouth surgery. Went to go help her feed her horses yesterday, and could not because it was raining so hard. And I actually have a little video that shows that. I will upload it to the community tab after I do this, and y'all get to watch it. Um, it'll be uploaded right after this, like 5 minutes after this video. Um, It's a lot of rain, a lot. Um, Today I was able to though, and the horses were very appreciative. It was amazing amount of rain. Tonight we're going to be reading out of Numbers 6:4. It actually kind of looks like we might get another shot of rain today. Numbers 6:4. All the days of his separation shall he eat nothing that is made of the vine tree, from the kernels even to the husk. In the New King James, it says, all the days of his separation, he shall eat nothing that is produced by the grapevine, from seed to skin. And so, no grape juice, no grapes, no nothing. Let's go up here. The Nazarite vow. Now, this is interesting because the Nazarite vow was still around in Jesus' time because Paul took the Nazarite vow. Remember when he shaved his head, and then there was a bunch of people that were throwing a fit because he had taken Gentiles to the temple. Thing is that he had them wait outside. These are other guys that had taken the Nazarite vow too. I believe, if I remember correctly, I think Ken Johnson talked about how they think that they were Essenes, and this ended up being a part of this. They were waiting outside. They didn't go in with him, but it started a riot, and the commander up at Fort Antonia had to walk down with some guards down to the temple to get Paul, and they had to all but carry him back up there to protect him. Otherwise, they were going to tear him to pieces. And this is how he ended up on his trip to Rome by ship. So, yeah, there was a lot going on here, but this has been around a long time. The Nazarite vow, Numbers 6:1. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when either a man or a woman consecrates an offering, to take the vow of a Nazarite, to separate himself to the Lord. This would be separating yourself from everything. And so your whole life is dedicated to the Lord. Completely separate from everybody and everything. It is thought that John the Baptist had taken the Nazarite vow. That's why it says he had never taken any alcohol at all, or nothing from the vine. He shall separate himself from wine and similar drink. So anything that it connects to it, even grape juice. He shall drink neither vinegar made from wine nor vinegar made from similar drink. Neither shall he drink any grape juice nor eat fresh grapes or raisins, even dried ones. All the days of his separation he shall eat nothing that is produced by the grapevine, from seed to skin. Now this is the whole time he is under the vow. It can be a lifetime, it can be a short period of time. All the days of the vow of his separation, no razor shall come upon his head, until the days are fulfilled for which he separated himself to the Lord. He shall be holy. Then he shall let the locks of the hair of his head grow. The days of the Lord, so he shall be holy, then she shall let the locks. So that kind of doesn't sound like it makes sense, but all the days that he separates himself to the Lord, he shall not go near a dead body. He shall not make himself unclean, even for his father or his mother, for his brother or his sister when they die, because his separation to God is on his head. All the days of his separation he shall be holy to the Lord. And if anyone dies very suddenly beside him, and he defiles his consecrated head, then he shall shave his head on the day of his cleansing. On the 7th day he shall shave it. Then on the 8th day he shall bring 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons to the priest, to the door of the tabernacle of meeting. And the priest shall offer one as a sin offering and the other as a burnt offering, and make atonement for him, because he sinned in regard to the corpse, and he shall sanctify his head that same day. He shall consecrate to the Lord the days of his separation, and bring a male lamb in its first year as a trespass offering. But the former days shall be lost, because his separation was defiled. Now this is the law of the Nazarite. When the days of his separation are fulfilled, he shall be brought to the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and he shall present his offering to the Lord, one male lamb in its first year without blemish as a burnt offering, one ewe lamb in its first year without blemish as a sin offering. Now the hard part was catching them in their first year without a blemish. That means if there was more than 3 different colored hairs on them, it couldn't be used. One ram without blemish as a peace offering, a basket of unleavened bread, cakes of fine flour mixed with oil, unleavened wafers anointed with oil, and their grain offering with their drink offerings. Then the priest shall bring them before the Lord and offer his sin offering and his burnt offering, and he shall offer the ram as a sacrifice of a peace offering to the Lord, and the basket of unleavened bread. The priest shall also offer its grain offering and its drink offering. Then the Nazarite shall shave his consecrated head at the door of the tabernacle of meeting, and shall take the hair from his consecrated head and put it on the fire, which is under the sacrifice of the peace offering. And the priest shall take the boiled shoulder of the ram, 1 unleavened cake from the basket, and 1 unleavened wafer, and put them upon the hands of the Nazarite after he has shaved his consecrated hair. And the priest shall wave them as a wave offering before the Lord. They are holy for the priest, together with the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering. After that the Nazarite may drink wine. This is the law of the Nazarite who vows to the Lord the offering for his separation, and besides that, whatever else his hand is able to provide, according to the vow which he takes. So he must do according to the law of his separation. It's also rumored that they think there's a possibility that Elijah took the Nazarite vow too. They think that most of the prophets and even many of the priests all throughout the Bible took this Nazarite vow. This Nazarite vow was a thing even before the law was brought about, or there was a version of it, and the Lord made it specific here. So good luck keeping that, because there are people today that say they've taken the Nazarite vow. Well, really? Well, maybe double check with the scriptures first and with the Lord, and make sure that's something that should be done. Nowadays, there's really no need for it. But I imagine somebody could do it if they wanted to. I tend to think this was something that was more geared towards the Jews than to us. Nazarites had taken, among other vows, one which debarred them from the use of wine, in order that they might not violate the obligation. They were forbidden to drink the vinegar of wine or strong liquors, and to make the rule still more clear, they were not to touch the unfermented juice of grapes, nor even to eat the fruit, either fresh or dried. In order altogether to secure the integrity of the vow, they were not even allowed anything that had to do with the vine. They were, in fact, to avoid the appearance of evil. Now, something else to keep in mind is, back then, they would make food out of the vine leaves. I've had them before. It's almost like an egg roll, but the grape leaf wrapped, and it's got meat and rice and stuff in it. And that was a fairly common dish. A lot of people don't care for it. I thought it was good. Surely this is a lesson to the Lord's separated ones, teaching them to come away from sin in every form, to avoid not merely its grosser shapes, but even its spirit and similitude. If a person has a problem with alcohol, stay away from it. For most of us, it's better if we didn't. And I think for all of us, it's a desire that we don't. Strict walking is much despised in these days, but rest assured, dear reader, it is both the safest and the happiest. You can't go wrong with a strict walking with the Lord. Now, people aren't going to understand. Your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, your family, they're not going to understand. They don't have to. This is what you choose to do it. He who yields a point or two to the world is in fearful peril. He who eats the grapes of Sodom will soon drink the wine of Gomorrah. So that's a quote from verses in the Bible. So one of the things the Nazarites did by adding that in there is, because they were a people at that time, and the Lord took on that and added it as something somebody could do. There was symbolism in that act of staying away from those things. And there was truth behind it too. Now, it seems a little extreme. You can't even eat raisins? Nope. No grape juice, no nothing. That was hard to do back then because a lot of times, because pure clean water was hard to come by. There's a lot of process to it. Well, they would mix vinegar with it to help to clean it and sterilize it, make it safe. They would mix the wine, 1 part to 3 parts wine from the wine to water to help sterilize it. And they mix some other stuff in there with it. So sometimes it was hard. You had to be careful, what and who you interacted with. He who yields a point or two to the world is in fearful peril. He who eats the grapes of Sodom will soon drink the wine of Gomorrah. A little crevice in the sea bank in Holland lets in the sea. Remember the story? As a kid, I read a story, the guy that took his finger and stuck it in the dike because the land they were on sat below sea level, and the dike kept the water back when the tides came in. And there was a leak, and he put his finger in the leak. Some of you guys might remember that if you're older. That was a story we read in school. And this is the same principle here. A little crevice in the sea bank in Holland lets in the sea, and the gap speedily swells till a province is drowned. Worldly conformity in any degree is a snare to the soul and makes it more and more liable to presumptuous sins. And this is the point of the alcohol, abstaining from any alcohol or anything connected to it. Because that little bit can cause certain sins. You have to be in full self-control at all times under the Nazirite vow. A little bit of alcohol could put you in a dangerous state where you would end up with a presumptuous sin and indulging in it. Moreover, as the Nazirite who drank grape juice could not be quite sure whether it might not have endured a degree of fermentation, that was the point of staying away from the grape juice, and consequently could not be clear in heart that his vow was intact. So the yielding, temporizing Christian cannot wear a conscience void of offense, but must feel that the inward monitor is in doubt of him. And so any little bit, like some people will let one thing go in lieu of other things, or they'll tolerate something to make everybody happy. Well, at least I don't go to that and engage in that. But this little thing, I don't see a problem with it. And so they make concessions for a little thing, not realizing it connects them to the big thing. Things doubtful, we need not doubt about. They are wrong to us. Things tempting, we need not dally with, but flee from them with speed. Better be sneered at as a Puritan than be despised as a hypocrite. They got they make it a swear word. They call you a goody two shoes. Oh, you're just a goody two shoes. You think you're better than everybody else. No, I don't. Actually, I think I'm worse. That's why I'm trying to be better. And they do the whole goody two shoes thing. Well, thank you. That's a compliment to me. Careful walking may involve much self-denial. We're supposed to be a living sacrifice, but it has pleasures of its own which are more than a sufficient recompense. See, we have something that we can get from that here in this life that is far above and beyond anything this life can offer. That's a closer walk with the Lord. Taking those things that are in our way, the worldly things, and pushing them to the side clears the path for us to get closer to Him. It invites a closer communion and closer connection. Now, that doesn't mean if you don't do those things, you're going to be less of a Christian. It has nothing to do with that. But there are certain sacrifices that have to be made in order to have a better walk or a closer walk or a more detailed walk with the Lord. And that would be denying ourselves much of the worldly pleasure and the worldly enjoyments. We have, Solomon said, all is vanity. All in life is vanity. Now, for most people, the Nazirite vow is not something that should be taken on. They have responsibilities, they have other things going on. They don't have the ability to do this. This is for somebody who is well seasoned and is very astute and aware of and knowledgeable in the things of the Lord. Because then you will know what you need to stay away from. You will know what you need to avoid. Most of the time they would walk with their eyes at the ground and they wouldn't make eye contact with anybody. They wouldn't even look up, especially if there was women around. They wouldn't look up at them. They would refuse to look at them because of the risk of temptation, which would violate the Nazirite vow. It's a very strict thing. A lot of your monks today, they do that. But the problem is they take it too far. See, when Paul took his vow, he still preached. He still went and engaged with the people. These monks go and hide and hide away and don't do anything. Now, It's a good thing depending on what you're into. A lot of those guys were people who have criminal past, and they're like, I can't avoid the temptation. I'm going to go engage myself into this, inject myself into this monastery and stay away from this so I don't fall into temptation anymore. And for a lot of them, it works. But this is something very, very severe, something that is very specific for a specific individual concerning specific things. This is why Paul did it. This is most likely why John the Baptist, it's rumored he did it. And this is why they think maybe Elijah might have done it too, because there were specific things involved here. These were very specific men under very specific circumstances. Now we see that Jesus never did this. There's no record of him ever taking a Nazirite vow. That wasn't what he was doing. It wasn't part of what he was doing, because he had to go engage in those things. He had to get near dead bodies. He couldn't involve himself in this vow. This vow was involving something else and involved different criteria, because there may be people who are like, you know what, I'm going to dedicate myself to the Lord fully. And they step out of society, they step out of the worldly things, and they engage in that. And their whole life is like that for the most part until they're done. And then a lot of times they'll do that to make themselves, learn more self-control, learn not to engage in those things, or prepare themselves for some form of ministry. Either way, whatever the motivation is, it's a very, very strict book. I would say it would be near impossible today to do it, for anyone to pull it off. There's just too much temptation everywhere. It's everywhere. You can't get away from it. You can't scan the traffic while you're driving on the highway without some form of temptation popping up. Yes, it's just impossible. And so to take a Nazirite vow would mean you'd have to go literally remove yourself from society. Be that as it may, the point that he's trying to make here is that when and there's some things we have to be involved in, unfortunately. There's some things we must partake in. There's some activities or some interactions we have to deal with because of where we're at. That doesn't disqualify us. Not taking a Nazirite vow doesn't disqualify you. It's when you make, and here's the thing the Lord looks at, is what's the desire of your heart. When you make concessions on things you shouldn't, that's when there's a problem. Because you're not trying to stand up for truth. You're saying, well, okay, I'm going to let this go because I don't want to argue and fight with anybody, but I'm just not going to engage myself in the other thing. No, I'm not going to go into any homosexual or transgender events, but I'm going to let them in the church and let them do what they want to do in the church. No. If they're going to come in the church, they have to abstain from all that. You can't have one little bit and not have the whole thing. A little leaven leavens the whole lump. That's why these people keep trying to do a little bit of the law. They want to do a little bit of, I'm going to do a little bit of the law. We're going to observe the Sabbath, and we're going to give 10%, and 4 or 5 other things we're going to do. But the rest of it, we're not going to do. Okay? A little leaven leavens the whole lump. If you're going to do a little bit of the law, you got to do the whole law. He said if you violate the law on one point, you violated the whole thing. Well, why would you even do the whole law in the first place? Trust in Jesus. Trust in Jesus. And so they get a lot of this stuff convoluted, and what they end up doing is they end up making concessions for things that they shouldn't. This is why we have to read the Word and stay familiar in the Word. Man will deny certain parts of the Scripture, and they will not tell you about them. And since that person doesn't read the Bible, then they'll go off deceived and not realize what they're doing to themselves. When they could read the Bible themselves and go, no, wait a minute, this says this. That's not what he's telling me. Okay, well, I'm not going to listen to him. I'm going to listen to the Bible. But it's true what he says, that if you let some stuff go, it can create big problems. If you just kind of nod at something and ignore it, it can lead to some big problems. Bad company. Proverbs says bad company ruins good morals. So we have to be discerning about what we do and who we interact with. And just to be very brutally honest here, there are some people in this world we should not have anything to do with. We should not even look at them or talk to them or acknowledge them. There are some activities we just should not have anything to do with because it so closely brings us right to that line that we don't want to cross. A lot of people are like, I'm going to go to the line. Here's my line in the sand. One of the greatest movies I ever saw. Because a lot of movies will do that. The guy will say, okay, well, here's the line in the sand. Don't cross that line. And I forget the name of the movie, but he went up and he drew a line and then he walked back like 10 steps. He said, "That's my line in the sand. Don't cross it. You stay on your side of the line, we'll be fine." And it was over, I guess, like a property thing or a land thing. It was an older movie from back. And he stepped back from the line. Now, a lot of people watching that movie wouldn't understand that gesture and what it meant. Well, the thing was is that if you stood right at the line, they would walk right up to the line and somebody would pull a knife out and stab you or take a sword at you because they can reach you right across the line. He stepped back 10 paces. Nobody can get near him. And if somebody pulled a bow out, he had a chance to take cover and avoid the shots. So we don't want to flirt with disaster by getting right up to the line. We want to stay a ways from that line. That way, there's no problems. That way, there's no issues. Somebody may reach across the line, grab you, and pull you across. And then they proceed to beat the snot out of you. Why even try? Why even tempt it? Why even tempt fate? Don't even go there in the first place. That was the point of this. No grape juice. No grape. You can't chew on. One of the things they would do is they would chew on their grape skins. Some of them had thick skin. They chew on it and get the nutriment out of it. Or they would sit there and with a toothpick where they would chew on the stems, and you get some stuff out of that. Nothing. You can't even touch it. Don't have nothing to do with it, because if to have even one to do with one piece of it risks something else. See, when they did grape juice, and they would just do juice, they weren't making wine. The grapes went through the same process either way, and so they would stomp on those grapes, and then the juice would come out. Here's the problem: is that there's a stuff on there called must, and it's like a is it a fungus or a mold or something? It's on. You can see it. It's like kind of a white color. It's on the stems. It's on the grapes. Well, in the process of stomping those down and getting the grape juice out, some of that transferred into the liquid. Now, if you took it and you bottled that and you stuck it in the dark up on a shelf, in a week it's fermented because it's in there. Now, they would actually take a big scoop of the skins and the twigs and all that, and they would throw it in there, cap it, stick it on the shelf, and it made it even more powerful. And then they knew it was good whenever all the stuff would settle to the bottom, and then you just pour it off the top. Made for a very strong wine. It's still done in a lot of places nowadays. They do the same thing. They use the must to make it. It makes a very strong wine. You can get up to 50 proof doing that. So the risk of drinking grape juice, you risk that it may have fermented a little bit while it was sitting somewhere on a shelf before it got to you. That's why they said to stay away from that. And so if you take a little something from the world, there may be something in there that's going to shipwreck everything. A lot of Christians go to palm readers. Why are you going to palm readers? Well, he said witchcraft. Palm reading is divination. It's witchcraft. The Bible literally says that. There's a lot of Christians, a lot of Catholics, a lot of Jehovah's Witnesses that go to palm readers. They have them in their church. They'll read palms in the church before and after service. No. That tiny bit, it seems like a no big deal. That little bit can ruin the whole thing. And so you don't want to risk any of that. The leaven, a little leaven leavens the whole lump. If you leave a little bit of yeast on a cutting board, and then I'm going to make some unleavened bread, and it's in that little cutout on the side, where the liquid's supposed to drain into, and there's a little yeast in there. You make unleavened bread, it doesn't rise. You get that little bit of yeast in there, and you put it off to the side, and all of a sudden it rises. Why did that rise? That's unleavened. There's no yeast in it. Why is it rising? Got to throw the whole thing out and start over. That's why they would clean. And there's a parable about that. Clean everything. Make sure everything's clean. There's nothing there. And then make the bread. Because you don't want to risk even a little bit corrupting the whole thing. Now, if you take a gallon of pure water and you put 1 drop of cyanide in it, if you drink 1 sip, it's probably not going to. Maybe you have a little glass, a couple of ounces. It's probably not going to mess with you. Cyanide will stay in your system. It falls into the category of heavy metals. It'll stay in your system. Now, you sip on that gallon of water a little bit every day. Eventually, it'll kill you. Cyanide is poisonous at 5 parts per million. That's almost nothing. So one drop out of a dropper in a gallon jug, you end up drinking a whole gallon jug, it's probably going to take you. So even just a little bit is harmful. Even just a little bit can corrupt. And this is the point of the devotion. This is the point of this Nazirite vow. Even just a tiny bit can corrupt. You can't have any of that. That's why it was so strict. That's why the Lord made it so strict. Praise God, we don't have to worry about that anymore because we have the atonement of Jesus Christ. But it's still something to pay attention to because it could really easily, you can get drug out. I've said this before in videos. Don't leave the light. Don't leave the circle of light from the Lord to go and to bring somebody into the light. Stick your hand out and hang on to something because they may grab you and pull you in. You don't want to go out there looking for them and risk getting lost. So we don't want to have a little bit of the world in here. The best thing to do is don't even cross into out of the light at all. Just call them. Hey, come in here. No, you come out here. Nope, can't do it. I risk losing my way and getting lost. And that's what happens to a lot of people. That's why there's a great apostasy happening. That's why the Bible tells us about that in Thessalonians, that there's going to be a great falling away. Great departure from truth. And we see that happening. Why? Because they let a little bit of the world and they think, oh, well, this is okay. This is no big deal. Says you, but what does Jesus say? So we have to be careful and be discerning and be deciding. And you know what? If you see a situation, you get invited somewhere and you see you know what, guys? I think, and I've done this before. I've only had to do this a couple of times where we had the car parked and we were walking down there and I saw what was about to happen. You know what? Y'all go have fun. I'm going to go sit in the car. No, wait, what? Why? No. I already see disaster getting ready to strike. I don't even want to put myself in that temptation. I'll wait in the car for you. And we've gotten back in the car and left and not gone. Because even a little bit can cause a problem. That's why he tells us to push that stuff away. Push the world away. Put both your arms out, both sides, and spin in a circle. Don't get near me. That's my line. Stay away. Don't. There's certain things you just gotta not have anything to do with because over time, it's going to tear down everything you built or everything the Lord's built. Why should we do that to ourselves when we don't have to? Again, it gets into some weird areas and some gray areas when you're preaching to others and talking to others and interacting with others. But even the Lord did that. But he knew when was enough. He knew when it was time to leave. He knew when it was time to stay away and not have anything to do with them. And when the right time was to go and talk to them. See, people usually aren't ready. They want to get a Christian by themselves so they can jump on them and they can gang up on them. So they know you're a believer. That's what they're going to attempt to do. Turn around and walk away. And when they yell at you, what are you, scared? Turn around, look at them right in the eye and say, yep. Because I don't want you to pollute what I'm doing. I don't want your influence to be negative against me. Yeah, I'm scared. I don't want to step away from my Lord. And I don't want to risk my faith getting shipwrecked because I decided to interact with you guys and engage in what you're engaging in. No, thank you. Walk away. Trust me, they'll get over it. Nobody ever died from being offended. They will get over it. So be discerning. Think about it. Take your time. And if you get those things where somebody throws an offer at you and you're like, well, can I think about it a little bit? Well, nope, you got to make a decision now. Okay, well, my decision is no thank you. And turn around and walk away. I've done that many times. Did it in several car dealerships. And I'll tell you what. I got your number, you got mine. I'll give you a call in a day or two. Let me mull this over and crunch a few numbers and make sure that it's going to be right for me. No, we got to make a decision now. Okay, well, my decision is no. Thanks for your time. I got up and walked away, and they followed me all the way out to the car. So it's too late, man. You messed it up because you decided you were going to try to force me to make a decision and get into something I can't afford. I have a family to provide for. If I can't afford that, I'm not going to do it. You should have just gave me the option, and maybe I would call you in a day or two and say yay or nay. Maybe I crunch some numbers. Maybe I can make some adjustments. But now you ruined it. I'm not even going to bother coming back here and buying a car from you. Thanks. Have a nice day. They will get over it. Because for every one of us that doesn't engage with the world, there's 50 or 100 other people that are willing to. They'll be fine. So use discernment in your own personal life and in your own personal situations. Use discernment. Pray for discernment. You might be surprised at how much is going on around you that you didn't know about, that you need to remove yourself from. And you know what? If you're struggling to do that, go to the Lord and talk to him, and he will remove it for you. I know, because he's done it for me recently. I love you all very much. I bless you all in Jesus' name, and I'll see you in the next video.